Hey everyone, this is Yusuf from Crafting Clouds. And today I want to talk about an important topic, which I'm hearing a lot, and some of my clients are even doing this, which is converting their QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the impacts of converting your QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. And a big part of this video is going to actually focus from a method perspective. So if you are a method user and you are using QuickBooks Desktop Online, this video is for you if you want to understand what impacts you should expect when moving to QuickBooks Online. And you may be thinking, well, why should I listen to this random guy on YouTube? Well, just a brief background on me. I've been in the CRM space now my entire career. It's been over 10 years now. I've been building CRM and ERP solutions for all types of clients, from small to medium-sized businesses to enterprise-level clients. I used to be a Method employee for 6 of those years, where I became a team lead, teaching other solution specialists the best way to deliver value for their clients. And I've always been closely tied to the QuickBooks ecosystem through, keeping in touch with Method and people working there, as well as being involved in the QuickBooks community, and still building solutions for other business owners that want to get the most out of QuickBooks by using Method or any other platform. So I have to be in the know. This is my job. So that's why you should listen to me. So stay tuned for this video, and we're going to go into this deep dive now. What are the things that you should, think about when you are considering moving from QuickBooks Desktop to online? Well, the first and foremost is QuickBooks Desktop is their most robust version of QuickBooks that they have today, right? It is one of the old QuickBooks. I'm going to be talking about QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise because that is the only one that QuickBooks is planning to or already are only managing. I believe the other QuickBooks versions like Premier, those are all gone, or they're going to be out the door. QuickBooks has already announced that. So for QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise users, you do have the most robust QuickBooks platform. So going from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, you will be losing some functionality. The functionality that the most notable ones that I can think of is sales orders. So if you are a business that is tied heavily to sales orders, I would not recommend going to QuickBooks Online. Just keep using your QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. There's no point in breaking your company process and having to figure out a way to, create sales orders a different way. I mean, you could do it through Method as a custom solution, but that's just an added cost that I don't think you should be taking on right now. Now, sales reps is another thing that QuickBooks Online doesn't have. So if you do use sales reps often, that is a small thing that's not really a speed bump, or more of a burden. It's more of a speed bump that you will easily be able to overcome when going over to QuickBooks Online. So I would say the biggest disadvantage are for those businesses that use sales orders. You will not have access to sales orders in QuickBooks Online. Now, another thing to consider, though, is the fact that, with Method, particularly if as a QuickBooks Desktop user, you do know you have the Method Sync engine. And this Method Sync engine, you have to download either on-site locally to a computer and have it constantly connected to your Method to get truly a real-time sync experience, which a lot of business owners don't do, right? They turn off their computer at the end of the day, and then that sync engine is disconnected. The next day, you have to turn it back on, reconnect your sync engine, wait for it to finish its sync. And that I can understand for a lot of business owners is a very tedious task that they wish they could just eliminate. And by going to QuickBooks Online, you would be eliminating that. You would no longer need to manage that desktop sync engine, right? And for those of you that don't have your QuickBooks Desktop on site, locally within your office, you may be using Right Networks to host your QuickBooks Desktop sync engine and your QuickBooks Desktop file. Now, I do know Right Networks personally. They have a timeout policy of, let's say, 3-4 hours. So let's say your QuickBooks file gets so big and you have transactions from 2010 and you're running a full sync. That full sync could be running well over that timeout. And you're never going to really get a full sync from Method and QuickBooks to Method, because the sync engine is running longer than that 3-hour timeout policy. So that's just one example of Right Networks being kind of a hindrance, or not providing the best experience. You're eliminating having to use Right Networks and that added cost, as well as of paying for Right Networks and hosting your file there with QuickBooks Online. So that is a huge advantage. You're right away seeing your operating cost, get recovered from that. Now, another thing to consider as a business owner is, and this is just my gut telling me this. This is not factual. So please take this with a grain of salt. But this is what I would do if I was a business owner. It's becoming clear that Intuit is pushing everyone to QuickBooks Online, right? And I mean, I can understand, because everything is going online, right? Everything's going to the cloud. Dealing with on-premise applications is a thing of the past. So they're just getting with the times, right? And with that being said, they are constantly updating QuickBooks Online, which means that I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the functionalities that you didn't see in QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise eventually do get released to QuickBooks Online. Now, with that being said, my gut tells me that QuickBooks, or Intuit's plan, is to eventually discontinue and deprecate QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. And the reason why they haven't done it now is because QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise is still carrying a lot of their users. So I believe that they are watching their users, and they're trying to see, they have a threshold as to at what point do we start, telling users that they have to move over to QuickBooks Online, which I do think is going to happen. I think they're eventually going to push everyone to QuickBooks Online, whether you like it or not. And they're just going to deprecate QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. But they're not doing it now, because if they were to do it now, they have a big chunk of their user base, maybe even majority of their user base, still using QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. So that's why they haven't done that yet, because that would cause a huge upset and a huge ripple effect. But right now, they have efforts currently where they are pushing people to move over to QuickBooks Online. And they even offer a service to move you and convert your QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online free, to my understanding. I could be wrong there, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But to my knowledge, it's completely free. You just got to log a case with QuickBooks support, and they will begin the process. So I do know that they are trying to move everyone over to QuickBooks Online. And once that user count and that proportion, or that percentage of users starts dropping and it hits their threshold, that's when they're going to say, okay, everyone else, you have until this day. We are deprecating or discontinuing QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. You do need to move. Now, do you want to wait for that to happen? I mean, for some of you, you may have no choice because you've invested so much in the functionalities of QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise, and it doesn't make sense for you to move right now. And I agree with you there, right? No, there's no point of doing that. But if you're not, if you have, if a lot of the functionalities in QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise is also available for you in QuickBooks Online, do it now. Future-proof your company now. Don't wait until QuickBooks tells you you have to leave and now you have to worry about, moving everything over then. Get ahead of the curve. Understand that this thing is most likely going to happen where you will have to move to QuickBooks Online. So it's better do it sooner rather than later. So I know that part was a little bit long and winded, but I really just wanted to give you my honest insights into this and what I would do if I was a business owner. Again, my whole thought on QuickBooks Online, pushing people from QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise to QuickBooks Online could be completely wrong. So take it with a grain of salt. But I feel like that is the direction they are heading into. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is preparing for the conversion. So let's say you are ready to move over and you don't know where to start. First thing you need to do is get in touch with QuickBooks and explain to them that you want to convert your QuickBooks Desktop file to QuickBooks Online. They will get that process going for you. Now, if you'd like, you can reach out to a QuickBooks expert or a QuickBooks Pro advisor. And the QuickBooks expert will do an evaluation of your QuickBooks Desktop file and tell you essentially what are the potential impacts of moving from QuickBooks Desktop to online. So you're aware. Each QuickBooks Desktop business owner that uses QuickBooks Desktop, their file is going to be different. So that's why there needs to be that evaluation. And I don't know if QuickBooks Support will offer that. I think that they assume that you understand the implications and that you're ready just to move forward. So that could be something that you may want to do just to, be extra careful with this because you are dealing with your accounting data. So that goes with preparation. Once you're ready and you speak with QuickBooks, they're going to go ahead and they're going to produce for you a QuickBooks Online file. Your QuickBooks Desktop file will still be there, but now you're going to have this new QuickBooks Online file as well. Now that's when, if you're a Method user, you're going to want to go and speak with Method support and create a case with Method support. Because now you have the QuickBooks Online file, now you can give it to them and they can begin that conversion process for you of converting your Method account from a QuickBooks Desktop account to a QuickBooks Online account. Now, it's not as easy as just swapping out the file and inserting the QuickBooks Online file. No. Method is very strict for good reason as to making sure that you're not swapping out files. As soon as you connect that one file, that's it. You're tied to it. But that's why you need to speak to QuickBooks Support, because they do have a tool that basically goes through the proper checks and balances so that you can properly disconnect your QuickBooks Desktop file and connect your new QuickBooks Online file to your existing Method account. And that way you don't have to start a new account with Method. You don't lose any of the progress that maybe you've made in Method. Let's say there's a bunch of custom apps or customizations that you've made. You are now keeping all that time and money that you potentially spent on those customizations there. It's not lost, which is a big reason why, converting your QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online account is important instead of creating a new account. So once you give them that file, let's do now a deep dive into the details of the conversion process. So what does that look like? So from a support standpoint, the developers in Method, they're going to be the ones that are going to be tasked with this, right? So what's going to happen is support's going to create a case, task the developers with this. The developers are going to get your QuickBooks Online file. What they're going to do is they're going to create a test account, okay? And this test account, they're going to connect your QuickBooks Online file with. Not your live account, a test account. And the reason why they do this is because they want to ensure that there's no surprises when they connect your QuickBooks Online file to your live account. They want to do a test run, essentially, to make sure that everything goes smoothly so that there's nothing unexpected that happens, which is great. They're being very careful with this process, and that's really, really good that they thought of that, because you definitely want to make sure you can do a test run first to make sure there's nothing that's going to pop up that could eventually that could impact your Method account and your customizations, but more importantly, your accounting data. So they do that. Once they do a test through your test account, and let's say things come up and they apply particular tweaks so that they ensure that now they know what to take care of and handle once they connect it to your live account, they will ask you and tell you that they do plan for a certain time period to essentially run a script on your live account. Now, this process could be over a span of 1 to 2 weeks, this process to your live account. Now, this is very important. During this process, please, please, please do not create any transactions in QuickBooks. If you want to create transactions, create them in Method only during this time period. The reason why I'm saying this is because during this time period now, where they are running the script on your live account and they are connecting a QuickBooks Online file to your live account, they will allow you to still go ahead and use your Method account, because obviously you want to be able to still run your business during this time period. But their QuickBooks Online file was a snapshot of that period of time leading up to the time of when they're actually going to connect your QuickBooks Online file to your Method account. From that point, that time period of when they're doing that and they're connecting everything, which can take 1 to 2 weeks, they don't have that included in their snapshot. That is now considered net new or a delta of transactions that you've created or method records that you've created in Method, um, that is not showing in your QuickBooks Online file. I don't even know why I mentioned Method, because Method has nothing to do your QuickBooks Online file. It's really your transactions. So that difference in transactions for that 2-week period, don't create them in QuickBooks, because if you create them in QuickBooks, you are not going to get those transactions back and you're going to have to recreate them. But if you create them in Method, because they're tying your QuickBooks Online to your Method account, those transactions will still be there and they will not be lost. So that's why I'm saying for that period, please do me a favor. Tell your accountant, tell whoever is in charge of your QuickBooks account, do not create transactions in QuickBooks. Do them in Method. That way you will not lose them for that time period. Now, that's just a tip. Now, there's 2 ways that the developers will convert your QuickBooks Desktop to your QuickBooks Online Method account. First way is they're going to do a simple remapping. Now, the simple remapping is free. And what they essentially do is they delete all of your transactions that were on your QuickBooks Desktop file, and they take that snapshot that have all those transactions that were originally in your desktop file that Intuit offered or QuickBooks offered you, and they push those over to your Method. Okay, so you haven't lost. Don't be alarmed when I say the word delete. You haven't lost those transactions because they're still on your QuickBooks Online file that's going to be now pushed to Method. Now, with that being said, if you have any relationships for those transactions with other Method records, so the ones that I can think of the top of my head, most notably, are your activities. Maybe you're logging activities against particular transactions. Even bigger one is if you're creating work orders in Method. So for all your field service business owners that are creating work orders in Method, and they are tied to your invoices, because as you know, you are generating invoices off of your work orders in Method, and there is that relationship there. That relationship is lost. The reason for that is because these transactions that are being pushed from QuickBooks Online to Method are now replacing the old transactions, and those transactions that are being deleted, they are not going to have those relationships. All those relationships that were originally there are gone because those transactions are gone. So now you need to make sure that you're setting up those transactions, right? You have to set up those relationships where you're relating those work orders to those new transactions that came in from QuickBooks Online yourself. Now, that could be a painful process depending on how many transactions you have. And there's not a straightforward way, to be quite honest with you, on doing it. You can consult with someone like me who has experience with repairing these relationships, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be done. Now, the next thing that you also need to consider is that there's also the advanced remapping. The advanced remapping is a paid service that the developers offer. They charge you $155 per hour. Now, don't worry, they're not going to just do this without telling you. They're going to give you an estimate as to what they think, how long it's going to take them to do the remapping for you, so that you have an idea of cost to do this. Now, with the advanced remapping, it eliminates that problem that I just mentioned about losing your relationships between your invoices and your work orders, as an example. Okay, so you may be willing to pay for this service because you don't want to lose, that history of what invoices were generated off my work orders, what calls were made against my estimates. Maybe you have a bunch of your sales team are logging their calls or their emails against estimates in Method, and you don't want to lose that because maybe you report against that the same way you would report against invoices that were created off of work orders. So that could be very important to you, and I can understand why. So this advanced remapping may be a service for you. Now, with that being said, there comes another thing to consider. When the advanced remapping, the way that developers do it is they do what they call a cross-reference between the transactions that are in your QuickBooks Online file and the transactions that are in your live Method account. and they compare using a set of fields that are found on these transactions, and each one of those fields need to match. So if they do match, then right away they know, okay, this transaction and method belongs to this transaction in QuickBooks Online. So we are going to make sure that they are, repaired and not deleted. That this transaction stays live, and it's connected to this QuickBooks Online transaction, which is great, right? Because now your transactions are not deleted. You're not losing those relationships. All the relationships that you had off of this invoice that was related to work orders is still there. All your activities are still there, and so on and so forth. But a lot of these fields could be considered back-end fields that you don't see on the front end, that the developers look at to make sure that they're identifying the right match. So even though in the front it may be apparent to you that, hey, it should be easy for them to find a match because I have all of these, because I haven't done anything. The problem is that when you convert your QuickBooks Desktop to your QuickBooks Online file, Intuit themselves could change some of the back-end values, which means when you're going to do this advanced remapping, even though it's obvious that these connect together, the developers, because they're running the script to do it for you, the script doesn't know that this is a one-to-one because some of the values that Intuit has changed in the background while they were converting your QuickBooks Desktop to your QuickBooks Online file, do not match the values, the back-end values that are for your transaction in your Method account. So right away, it's going to cause a duplicate. So what's going to happen is the developers are going to keep the original transaction that's tied to your related method records, such as your activities and your work orders, there, but they're going to flag it to not go to QuickBooks right away. So they're going to leave it living in method only. So it's not deleted, it's still there, but then they're also going to create a new transaction from QuickBooks Online, and that new transaction that has no relationships to it whatsoever is going to be there, and it's going to be a duplicate now of the original transaction. Now, there have been cases. I want to be completely transparent with you all because I want to make sure you guys are aware of what you could potentially be getting into, and I'm not trying to scare you. It's still very much worth it, right? But you have to you have to understand all the impacts. There have been cases where customers in the past have had all of their transactions duplicated. So if they had 10,000 transactions, now they have 20,000. All right. Now that is rare. It's only happened a few times. Majority of times it did not happen. So take that to your own, take that in and do what you will with that point. Now, if that does happen, if we were to consider that scenario, you can hire someone like me to go in and clean that up for you. And it's very simple. We would be running pretty much a batch process where we would go in and identify a criteria to identify which is the transaction that you want to keep and which is the one you want to delete. Now, obviously, the one you want to keep are the ones that are related, that have those related records. So it's a very simple batch process. So it's not the be all end all if that happens. Don't be alarmed. It's something that you can hire someone like me for to clean that up for you in Method within a day's effort, I would say. Okay. Now, with all that being said, right, let's just now consider at a high level what is the right approach for you today. To reiterate, if you are a business that doesn't have a lot of their transactions tied to Method records, so you're not, logging calls or have a lot of activities tied to your records that you're aware of, you don't use work orders, then the simple remapping may be the right tool for you because then you're not really losing anything, right? And it's a free option. You don't have to pay anything, and you're going to be able to still see all of your transactions that you originally saw in QuickBooks Desktop now in Method, but connected to a QuickBooks Online file. But If you know for a fact that you've set up custom reporting that do rely on custom relationships that you've built for these reports, or maybe just the relationships of, work, if you do know that you have a lot of invoices related to your work orders and you do have reporting tied to that, or you do see those relationships there, then the advanced remapping tool is probably the option for you. Okay. Again, if you want to talk more about this, feel free to book a call with me. I'll leave my website link down below in the description. I'm more than happy to get on a free call to discuss anything you'd like to discuss, to put your heart at ease. I'm here to help you. And I just wanted to kind of show you guys that this is things to consider if you want to move from QuickBooks Desktop to Online. So that's it for today's video. Again, my website will be down in the description below. Also, if you ever need any help with building custom apps that you want to have talk to your QuickBooks by using Method or any other platform, I do have a lot of knowledge across a suite of platforms, including a lot of AI automations now that is making a huge splash and a huge impact for a lot of small to medium-sized business owners. Feel free to book a call with me on my website at www.craftingclouds.com, as well as you can email me at Yusif, YOUSIF, at craftingclouds.com. I'll leave both of those links in the description below. See you guys later.